Hello guys, my name is Adam Shadow,
And my name is Haph.
and today we are here on the newest version of Minecraft on the Project CMP server, and we are going to show you another amazing concept for how to make storage like completely overpowered and break basically anything people have previously imagined was possible. You may have realized or heard about the fact that if you put something into unloaded chunks, for example, something like the minecart with chests that I have here, this is something people have done in the past quite a bit. You would just send in a really long line of rails somewhere into the unloaded chunks, and then the server itself would simply stop loading it. It will be deleted out of the RAM, and it will simply not cause any lag. So you could have 1,000 of these minecarts. However, as you can see, this is not, first of all, very fast. It's also really annoying to get them back, since you basically have to go there and load them. And it's also not the least laggy way, since you are using minecarts, and minecarts cause a lot more lag than they have to.
Also, the minecart gets stuck when it goes out there, usually.
Yes, so
Like it
you
stops
have to
moving.
literally load it and grab it and carry it back, which is really. Also, people have used usually double chests with hoppers, which used to be the most effective way. However, these days in 1.17, the lag from tile entities has been immensely reduced, especially if there are pistons, not that, or rather there aren't pistons that move blocks in the same chunks as the tile entities. Then they cause like 100 times or even 1,000 times less lag. So using droppers for storage actually is kind of viable, which is pretty surprising, since hoppers, even when locked, cause quite a significant amount of lag. So yeah, Hub here has actually come up with an amazing idea how to basically combine the chests and hoppers with something like sending the minecarts into the unloaded chunks. However, unlike in 1.12, in 1.17, all of these newer versions, we can't load chunks nearly as easily. We actually have to uh, use portals for that. Maybe Hap can explain this a little
Yeah.
bit.
It, in the newer version, the only way to load chunks is with tickets. Tickets, there's, I think, four different tickets. There's the player ticket, which is pretty obvious. It just follows the player around whatever chunk the player is in. They're loading them and around them. There's the world spawn ticket, which is the spawn chunks. There's one for the Ender Dragon fight, so that the dragon doesn't get stuck when flying around when you have a low render distance. And then there's nether portal tickets. Whenever any entity goes through a nether portal, it loads a 5 by 5 of chunks. No, well, sort of. Uh, 7 by 7. It will explain it. It loads chunks around the nether portal on the other side.
Yeah, here we have a
And
nice.
this is the only one, yeah,
Case
this is
of
the only one that can be created automatically anywhere.
Yeah, here we have a nice showcase
Uh,
build up of these areas that the
yeah,
portal loads. This is the chunk. Basically, these are blocks, but they represent chunks, and this is the center
yeah.
block with the chunk. So how exactly does it work? Uh,
So, whenever a portal has an item go through, for example, let's say that an item went through this portal and these two portals over here. Um, the 3 by 3 around each of the portals is completely and utterly loaded. So everything, well, there they go. So everything in this inner circle works totally normally. All entities are act like you'd expect them to, and uh, Redstone works and stuff. Then in the next row, the, the green area, Redstone works properly, but entities don't work.
so
There's
it's
a
something
couple
similar
weird
to
things about,
lazy chunks in 1.12,
yeah,
actually.
yeah. It's like lazy chunks. And then in the outer ring, um, there's a couple things that work, but mostly just like world generation, I think. I don't know for sure, but I haven't been able to do anything interesting in the outer area. Um, So unlike in 112, where it was just the distance from the outer edge, it now the actual loading priority is completely based on the ticket. So when you have these two portals right next to each other that are loading, even though the space in the middle is really far away from the edge, it's still only partially loaded. So entities won't work in these chunks, unlike in 12. If you had this same loading pattern, they would work.
Yeah, in 1.12, if you loaded chunks, basically the way it worked, you actually needed, I think, one or two chunks around each chunk to make it entity
Yeah,
processing.
yeah.
So,
In 12 it would look like this.
yes. And also the lazy chunks would go completely to the outside, I think. Mistaken.
Yeah. I think that there's in 12 these are more similar. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So, this is already pretty insane, right? Like, we can all manipulate at least portals, which is basically our only chance, as you heard Hap explain it, to load the chunks for us. So we could theoretically have some sort of control and, let's say, flick a lever and force the minecart back, or have a piston push something, or use a dropper line to retrieve the items back.
Yeah.
However, this
So
requires quite a bit
yeah.
of redstone in the nether side, basically some sort of uh, machinery that controls the overworld from the nether. The reason why we build it in the nether is because in the nether the coordinates are basically 1/8 of the coordinates in the overworld. Therefore, we can build a way smaller thing in the nether to control the overworld rather than vice versa. So yeah,
Yeah.
probably
If you try to
what's
do it the other way, having the overworld control the nether, then you'd have to build it like 64 times as big, which would be silly.
yes. So yeah, let's go over to the nether. Let's demonstrate roughly how a machine like that would work. Of course, as I named the, probably will name the video, and as I mentioned, this is currently more of a theoretical concept rather than something that's currently used and working and tested. But it will very likely be a big part of the ultimate storage system, since since we can load chunks, we can put a lot of items there and basically have infinite capacity bulk storage. And as I explained to you in the last video, we can theoretically build incredibly good interfaces for the USS. So the only second part we need is the bulk storage. Yeah, so
Yeah.
please explain this a little bit to us.
So each of these each of these things, I call them interfaces, are what controls the loading and unloading of each of the portals in the overworld. So, for example, this one might be loaded, and then to do that, it would be triggered by the two instant rail lines along this one and down here. When that happens, then it sends an item to the overworld, loading it, and if you wanted an item to be returned, then an item would be sent back.
So we send one
Uh,
item then, and the machine somehow detects that we want a full box to back to us, probably, right?
yeah. So yes, an item in this dropper, I'm using iron nuggets, would be thrown into this portal, and then on the overworld side, shulker box would be thrown through this portal down here and fall into this hopper.
Yeah, so on the overworld side, we'll
Uh,
simply need a very simple machine that will just detect the item arriving.
yeah. Um, that restocks the tiny little cache. I have an individual dropper of storage for each slice, um, and this one gets dispensed into the dropper line and returned to the player instantly. But then the cache gets refilled from the overworld.
Yeah, so it's basically like an intermediate tiny storage of
Yeah,
9 similar to maybe if you remember the older USS like USS 5 and 6 and so on are using, where they use a double chest or a set of droppers, and this thing is basically using a single dropper. But this is obviously
Yeah.
just a demonstration. We can probably increase or make it even smaller, or maybe completely without it.
Yeah, we could do it without it. Then you'd have a little bit of delay. I think optimal is probably just one or two shulkers.
Yeah. Well, it's more of how many tile entities we use that are filled with items,
Mhm.
rather than how many shulkers actually. Because like the
Hmm.
uh, how lag works in Minecraft, it doesn't really change much if you have one shulker box in a dropper or 9 shulker boxes in a dropper. So yeah, we'll probably
So we'll stay
use.
9.
So it will probably stay 9, or to maybe keep it in the hopper or something like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
what do these 3 portals exactly do? So this one, I
Um,
assume, is
so
where the nuggets come back from the overworld.
this is where the nuggets come back from the overworld. Then they trigger a string, which unlocks the hopper for a little bit to reset it. Um, you'd have above this, you'd have another portal to have the sorted items be sent into the overworld slice. So that'd probably be up here. But sorting is complicated, so we're not really sure what way to sort we're going to use yet.
Yeah, we could even put it lower, like there is not necessarily a limit, but we
Yeah,
actually have to use a
yeah,
2 by 2 of these portals.
yeah. It just has to be in the same 2 by 2, which it corresponds to the same overworld chunk as the other ones.
Okay,
Because if it's in the next chunk over, it'd start loading the next slice a little bit.
yeah, so this second portal, this one actually sends the iron nuggets, and this one at the bottom receives
Hmm.
the items. Yeah, we will probably have
Yes.
something up or below for sending the items in to basically the input, which will probably be either something really simple, like just stacking a lot of filter loaders, or or we'll probably use something more advanced like shulker box splitters or one of those machines Binary is currently working on.
Yeah.
Maybe you can explain how the encoding would work on this, because we have here 2 rail lines, I think, at least, that have
Yeah. So
also.
it's
It,
it's a grid decoder. Um, the way it works is when this rail gets updated and this bottom rail gets updated at the same time, then the dropper gets powered and updated. So it gets quasi-powered by the rail from above, as you can see with this observer, powers this stone brick, which quasi-powers the dropper. But the dropper doesn't get updated unless the rail below it updates it. So then, if both happen at the same time, then it gets both powered and updated, and then it dispenses, and the item gets sent back instantly in the same operation.
yeah,
I don't
this
have to update the bottom
yeah
rail
this is
twice.
basically a layout to send the item as fast as possible, and then do the refilling later. We'll also we need to load this somehow, so maybe you can explain it. How we load this,
Uh,
since this
yeah.
also will need loading.
So this would also be loaded by portal loaders that have to be fit into the grid. Inconveniently, wherever a portal loader for loading the nether side is loading a little bit of the overworld, so you can't put a slice there. So every sixth row would have to be skipped, or at least part of every sixth row would have to be skipped.
Yeah, so we will basically have to sadly have some gaps in this grid to have the portal loaders. Also, these rail lines, these are powered by basically decoders, like something I showed in the one of my previous videos, which were made by Binary, where we would simply have a pile of those cobble walls that will detect, and we'll simply use one set of them to power one set of these and the one set for the bottom ones. That's simply to make this thing more tightly packed. Like, we could technically make a long line of these things and just have a long line of decoders. It's not impossible, but this is just way denser and just allows us to pack more stuff in smaller space for almost no disadvantage, practically.
Yeah. So over here, I can show an example of it working. Just, I don't have a decoder on this right now. So um, this redstone dust depowers the torches and updates this rail line. And it also depowers this torch and updates that rail line at the same time. So when you update this redstone dust, it should send the thing. Hmm.
Yeah, when
Oh no,
we get a full box.
something
Yeah,
broke.
yeah, something broke. Like I said, this is just a showcase of
Oh,
the
yeah,
thing.
yeah. I didn't build the overworld side of the restocking thing,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it
So
isn't gonna get
so it's
restocked.
basically now it's basically calling the overworld. Please give me the box, and the overworld is not responding because it simply doesn't
Yeah,
exist. So yeah, we should
yeah,
probably stop this because before it drains.
yeah. I'll fix that.
Yeah, it was slightly too slow.
Interesting. Okay, so that needs to be changed
Yeah.
like this for some
So
reason.
that's oof. Okay, that's roughly how it would operate.
Yeah.
You can imagine
Uh,
why
it,
this is such an immense undertaking and why we haven't yet designed this thing. You can, first of all, you have all of these things which will need to have optimized wiring and everything like that. Secondly, we need to, and this is probably the hardest part of storage tech in general, is make up your mind what exactly is the optimal thing you actually want. Because, like I mentioned, there are many ways we could optimize this. We could make this the fastest thing possible. We could make it make it cause the least lag, or similar things. Like I said
yeah,
with
or
the
you could try and go for maximum capacity, or you could try and save on blocks, or you could do any combination of any other
yeah
things.
yeah the
So,
capacity of this, as Hub showed in the graph, the part before, is basically one chunk. That's more than enough. If you think
yeah,
about how many double
yeah,
chests of shulker boxes you can fill into one chunk, that's enough to even probably crash your game or something like that. I think have you did
yeah.
some
One
testing like
chunk for
that.
each slice. I
Yeah,
think you can fit about a third of a chunk full of shulker boxes before the game crashes.
yeah. So we can
So,
literally have as much capacity as the game allows us to have, which, as I said, compared to anything before, is unimaginably broken. Like, no storage hall can compete with this sort of capacity to lack efficiency. Is there something more you want to say, Hub, about this?
um, not really,
Okay,
but I
so
accidentally had the rail update order wrong, so I just wanted to show it actually worked properly. God dang it, it didn't work again. I don't know
well,
what I'm
it
doing
works
wrong.
when you turn it off, so I guess it's successful.
Yeah,
Oh, I know.
sort of.
I think I might know why, but that doesn't really matter right now. Also,
Okay.
let's maybe talk a bit about how to actually build this, right? Because this looks kind of insane, right? We have these single block portals everywhere. So,
Yeah.
first of all,
So,
I will
portals.
explain maybe how to get these single portals, and then Hub will explain to you guys how to do it with normal sized portals if you want to make a less, let's say it, hard to construct version or easier to build version of this. These single block portals are achieved by using update suppression. There is a really cool video from XCOM. He made a really nice update suppressor that's still used today. I'll probably eventually make something a bit nicer than that because it's really big and I doubt it's as perfect as some people think. And you also need to use basically cut the blocks from the portal itself, and also use chunk safe stating at the same time. Which, if you don't know what chunk safe stating is, it's basically if you put a huge amount of data in a chunk, the game just can't save it properly, and you can abuse this to either usually commonly dupe items, but it's much nicer if you can use it for something actually good for the game and not just cheesing it, like creating these portals. And for the update suppression, you basically also need to have the exact update order, and you need to properly place instant rail lines. And actually, special instant rail lines are used for this, in such a way to so that you can break the obsidian without updating these portal blocks themselves. And you can even use it in reverse to place blocks around them. So yeah, now Haph will explain how to maybe make a less advanced version of it and why we use these
Yeah.
one block portals.
So the reason we use the one block portals is just for density. You can place them closer to each other than you can place the big 2x3s. However, as long as all of the portals are within the same, they all correspond to the same overworld chunk, it doesn't actually really matter how big they are. So you could build 2x2 portals. You just have to like build one here, and then when you build one there, you'd have to build the next one on top of it, which would make the whole build taller.
Yeah. But that's not such a huge issue. There's also a little bit of an issue with how the items will move, right? That's this glass is really
Yeah,
practical
so
here.
the other thing with building the big portals is you can't put a hopper directly below them, so you have to get it to throw over the side. And sometimes it might go through one side when you expect it to go through the other, which might be inconvenient.
Yeah, there's also a really nice trick, and that's using. I think you showed it to me, and that's using boats and cactus, where the boat
Uh,
immediately
yeah,
gets broken and put back into the portal where it came from.
yeah. So when you're sending just a signal from the overworld to the nether, um, you can spawn a boat in the overworld that's touching another portal. And when it goes into the nether, if it also touches a cactus right next to the nether portal, the boat immediately breaks and goes back to the overworld without needing anything to catch and return items on the nether side.
Yeah, this can be actually used, and maybe someone will figure out. Probably one of us here. that uh, we could technically just send the signal in. You don't need to send maybe the iron
Yeah,
nugget items.
it could be something else instead if iron nuggets are not convenient. Minecarts would work.
In Minecraft.
You can't dispense boats in the nether, though, I don't think.
Yeah, that might be a problem. So yeah, is there something else we talk about this? We missed something?
I think that's about it,
Okay, thank you
at least for this
guys.
part.
Yeah, thank you guys all so much for watching. This is my first time doing, and Haph's first time doing a video with someone else, so please bear in mind we are not professionals or anything like that. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, or even comment if you have an idea about something like this, some sort of improvement or some sort of flaw that we didn't realize or anything like that. Please comment down below. I'll obviously link Haph's channel and his video. I think he made it quite a few months ago, where he showed some similar concept of the unloaded storage. So yeah.
Yeah, it's hypothetically possible to do similar things in 12, which is where I started. I moved here just because the portals are easier to work with.
Yeah, and we'll probably make the ultimate storage system in the newer versions anyway. So yeah.
Yeah.
Have a nice day and goodbye.
Bye.